You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we're talking about the 2021 American military science fiction action film. A lot of genres mixed in there.
Yeah.
The Tomorrow War, directed by Chris McKay, released on Amazon Prime Video July 2nd, 2021.
I do love when we cover something newer.
Yeah.
It just feels... I don't know how to describe it. It's just cool, I guess. Because when we first started, we weren't getting any new movies. It was pretty much...
Yeah.
We had a catalog of movies that had come out for the last, 3 or 4 decades.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't have anything new coming out. I think Greenland was the first new one that we
think so.
Covered.
So it's nice now to just have new stuff popping up. Be like, yay, new movies.
Yeah.
We still have some on our list, that haven't come out yet. We're just waiting on them.
Yes. Yeah, Damien. Hi, Damien. Sent me one the other day I haven't talked to you about yet. So I've added it to our list, though, so we don't miss it. I think it's coming out next month.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Just keep adding to that list.
Yeah.
It's always
awesome.
Fun.
But, yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yes, we are back. It's been awesome. Hopefully you didn't miss us too bad on the break, but maybe you went back and listened to some old episodes, things like that. But it was nice. So we are back in action. New episodes for you every week for, up until the next season finale. So we've got this whole chunk for you right here starting.
Absolutely. I'm so excited that we're entering season 3. I feel like we've done some really great movies, but then I was looking at the list of all the ones we want to do. We still have quite a few amazing movies to talk about.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Quite a few that are not so amazing, but still I think will be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. We've got some fun ideas coming up for this season on some kind of not really new formats, but we're changing up the format a little bit on some things. You'll just see how it flows. But yeah, we got some new ideas on kind of how we cover certain movies, or maybe, that whole TV series thing might actually happen this season pretty soon. It's coming up.
Fingers crossed. I think we have that in the works for, maybe a month from now. Right around there, maybe. I'm working on it. It's scheduling, it's the fun part.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a guest on, we have to move things around just a little bit in order to make it work. But I'm sure that we will.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Well, are we ready to go ahead and dive in on this movie? Start with our conversation about the Tomorrow War, kick off season 3.
I think we are. I will come back with something that hasn't changed. We're still doing a little behind the scenes at the start of the podcast. The Tomorrow War was filmed in Atlanta and Jekyll Island, Georgia, Miami, Florida, and the Vatnajökull Glacier in Iceland. And Vatnajökull means glacier of lakes. I had to look that up. It was initially scheduled for a theatrical release by Paramount Pictures on December 25th, 2020. But, COVID.
Oh, yeah, that old thing.
Yes, that thing that just keeps giving. So they rescheduled it for July 23rd, 2021, but that changed after Amazon Studios acquired the film for $200 million in January 2021.
Which that answers, I guess it's kind of obvious, but when we talk about box office numbers and stuff for all these streaming things, I guess that's kind of how the studios can justify and get away with being okay with these streaming things, because they know the box office numbers as far as opening weekend, people going to see it in theaters, is going to drop drastically.
Yes.
COVID or not, with it also being available for streaming, because a lot of people just don't want to go out and take the time and money to go to a theater when they can watch it at home. So then these streaming companies are giving them, buying it from them for money like that, $200 million. But that's a guaranteed $200 million that they might not hit on an opening weekend box office thing.
Right.
Well,
I mean, there have been bigger movies than this one that have flopped.
Yeah.
Movies with bigger budgets, because the budget for this film was about $200 million. Yeah. So they kind of broke even. There was no box office for this film, but it's estimated that 2.41 million households watched the film from July 2 through 5, which was the most ever for an Amazon original that was tracked at the time. And that was just a month ago.
Yeah.
Or 2 months ago, I guess. And
time is, when we record these and when we release them, people know there's a behind the scenes thing on here. So
yeah. Time's
irrelevant.
It did top the charts for additional weeks with viewership equivalent to 885,507 total watches. The film is 138 minutes, so it's a long watch.
Mm-hmm.
And Pake, another thing that didn't change. You're still going to bring us a synopsis wherever you get it from.
Uh-huh. This one's a little interesting and different, but I like it. Because it doesn't give away too much. Kind of makes you wonder. It tickles the senses. It says, a family man is drafted to fight in a future war where the fate of humanity relies on his ability to confront his past.
Yes. I would say that is vague enough to not give too much away.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely does confront his past. In the future. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in that little sentence that you've put there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about with this movie. I thought it might be easier when I was first looking at it and I had seen it once. I'm like, oh yeah, that will be pretty easy to do. But then when I watched it the second time through the podcaster's lens, it's a little bit different. And I actually have more notes than I thought I'd have.
Yeah. But at least with our, note style, with kind of breaking down characters and arcs, it is easy in the fact that, 90% of my notes are all just following Chris Pratt's character of Dan Forrester. So
mine too.
I think everything is mostly kind of through the lens of him. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be like the Dan Forrester hour where we just talk about his character, because I think the other characters were really just interwoven throughout the film. And he was connected with them. But it really is the Dan story.
Yes.
So, there's that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so with that, I guess, are we ready to jump in and talk about it?
I feel like we are.
All right. We get kicked off in this movie with Star-Lord falling from the sky. Wait, no. It really had that kind of vibe, because it's this out of the portal with these colors and stuff like that. And I was just like, wait. Is this Guardians? Or is this... what are we doing?
Did they release the third one and they didn't tell us? They put it under another title just to trick us? I don't think they would do that. James Gunn wouldn't do that to us, would he?
No. Well, no. No. But yeah, just falling. The rooftop pool's a lucky landing spot, I guess. It's one of the few spots that doesn't end in tragedy.
That was not where they were supposed to land.
Yeah, and because then, through a lot of the movie leading up to that actual jump, when we get there, because then it immediately jumps us back. But
there's a lot of jumping.
Yeah, I was just like, that was poorly planned. They're just going to drop people out of the clouds and expect that they didn't think that through very well. But then we find out later there was some kind of weird,
anomaly.
Yeah, a glitch in the system with their, GPS coordination and things. And it was
a glitch in the non-matrix.
Yeah. It's like, so they weren't supposed to just throw them out of the sky. That's good, I guess.
I know. I remember the first time I watched this, and it opened with that scene, and I'm thinking, so this is how it starts. Holy shit. That, like you said, not very well planned.
No.
They're falling, and they're... and I'm thinking, this is bad, and... yeah, it was really rough. Really,
I was
really
like,
rough.
she said they would come out 5 to 10 feet above the ground. That looks a lot higher than that.
Yes, it does.
Just by a little bit, at least.
Yes.
Um,
And our hero was lucky that he landed in a swimming pool on top of a building because many of his little buddies did not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most.
Most. I feel like he was left with a ragtag group of survivors to go and try to do the mission. Yeah. Luckily, we learn that Dan Forrester is a Green Beret. He's from, he had been in the armed forces. He was in special forces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we learned that about him right at the beginning. After they give us 28 years ago. Is that what they did?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, wow, we're bouncing around already.
Yeah. Yeah, we just kind of get thrown back into time learning about this character. Yeah, that he has a military background. He served in Iraq. And now he's just kind of a family man just trying to live his life. He's a teacher.
Biology. Yeah, he's a biology teacher, but he wants to have passion is research.
Yeah, he's got a very big scientific mind. Even he raises his daughter that way with like everything is very highly scientific. His daughter Muri knows more about science than most adults now today. I feel like like she could school just about your average layman in most things.
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's kind of how we are. But we see his kind of family life, just him and his wife, and things seem pretty normal. He's trying to land this big job that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But he's doing what he can. But yeah, we find out with like the Christmas card that he has like no relationship with his dad. Obviously, there's some real bumpy roads there, which they don't go into too deep other than his dad kind of abandoned him just due to his own trauma and things. And it's kind of, it plays off of that whole thing of, well, you were just a coward. You weren't doing the right thing for us. And that we've seen that theme pop up in a lot of things that we've covered in different things where it's, you think you're doing the right thing for the kids or your family or whatever, but then it's like, that's not, from their perspective, no, that's not how that went.
Yeah, parent-child relationships, we seem to pick those ones. We seem to pick movies that have complicated dynamics. Mm-hmm. Or it's just included in a lot of movies and we just happen to be covering them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, they have this really difficult relationship because he gets really pissed about that Christmas card. He does not want his father to have any contact with his daughter. And at that time, we don't get a lot of information other than, like you said, his father, James, abandoned them.
Yeah.
And that's all that we really get. Mm-hmm. And I get the sense from him that he's really just trying to be the father that he never had.
Yeah.
With his daughter. Like, he's very close with his daughter and his wife, and they have this lovely family dynamic, and we don't get to see a lot of that. I mean, he's got a wife named Emmy, but we really, I don't have a lot of notes on her. Like,
yeah, I don't have like anything on her, like one little thing, but
yeah,
I guess, she makes tuna Santa that nobody wants to eat.
Yes.
But Dan will come back and eat all her tuna Santa, and that is not a euphemism for anything.
No, it is not. I still wonder if he meant it as one, kind of. Tongue-in-cheek. But that really wasn't this movie. This movie was not a lot of tongue-in-cheek, I don't think.
Yeah.
I feel like it was pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a lot more jokes than I expected there to be in there.
Yes. But... Thank you, Charlie. Charlie brought a little bit of the humor.
Yeah.
We needed that in this movie.
But with this war, I mean, again, we're trying, if you're listening to this, you've probably watched the movie, so we don't need to break down the entire, storyline. And here's why everything's happening. But yeah, these aliens have attacked, and people come from the future to enlist the help of the people from the past because they don't have enough fighters in the future. And it just becomes a really bad situation. Dan is still believing they have a chance with bright scientific minds working on a solution. He has a lot more hope than a lot of people do.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
His students are all just like, what's the point? We're all going to die anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, too, because we learn, like, over this 12-month period that they sent, basically they're showing us through news broadcasts that they started sending people right away. They sent our armed forces into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And they quickly realized survival rate's about 20%.
Mm-hmm. And then they started drafting people, which I'm going to not be on a soapbox for too much, but but yeah, that's my it helped me, this movie, this opening sequence helped me I was like, oh, I get political, but it's like, technically by definition this is very political, but
yeah,
but it is what it is. But it made me really double down on my whole like forever fuck the draft viewpoint.
Ooh, you've never told me this. Now
always
I know.
Forever fuck a draft. Yeah, no, because then I get mad with seeing that, just like, the, what is it, Dodd, the kind of like military government guy, just being like, you've all answered a call. I was like, no, they didn't. You're forcing them. Fuck you.
Yes.
Wait a dick.
Oh. But we also see something that connects kind of to the past in our own country, where there's this huge anti-war movement.
Yeah,
going
which clearly I would be very much part of if there's drafts and everything coming back. But yeah, it's kind of the like, no, you don't fight, you don't force people to fight for a cause that they might not believe in. And I don't know, I see like with this, the world we're at, I don't think it works. I don't think we could go back to that.
No, I don't know
anymore.
that we could
I don't
either.
think you ever could. And even in this situation, I'm just like, do you send it? I don't know if we would do that. Like, send thousands of people a week for a war 30 years down the line. It's like, just enjoy those 30 years. I don't know. Like, it is a very tough one. And like within the scope of the movie, it's like, obviously they had to do it. Like, if they just gave up and were like, well, I guess we have 30 years to live. Enjoy, like, wouldn't be much of a movie. So
no, so they have to make it complicated. Really complicated. One of the scenes, I feel like one of the biggest connections that we got in this movie was Dan's relationship with his daughter, Mary. She is this young child, and he comes back into the party after not getting the job that he wanted. And she just sits down and starts talking science with him about the vaccine for tuberculosis, and she wants to be the best, especially like her dad, who is so good at science. And I love that, he said to her something that I think carried throughout this whole movie. You know what it takes to be the best? Or, you know what it takes to be the best? You've got to say to yourself, I will do what nobody else is willing to do. And I feel like that carries throughout this entire film.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like the underlying mantra.
Yeah, it does, because then he does end up getting drafted. And of course, the one real note I even really have on Emmy is that immediately she's like, well, then we're leaving the country. We're fleeing. We're going.
Yes.
I know you don't like to talk to your dad, but you're getting in hold of your dad because he knows how to avoid the government, and that's what we're doing.
And that's what we're doing. We're leaving.
And he goes along with it for a little bit until, because of his conversation with his dad, he realizes, I'm not a coward, and I'm going to do what nobody else is willing to do, and I'm going to choose to accept this and go through with it anyway. And when he goes back to his family, and you can tell that his wife is upset, but also kind of proud of him.
Yes.
In a way that she's like, I don't agree with this, I don't like this, but you make this decision and your heart's in the right place by doing that. And then she's like, but you have to tell Mary, which is rough, because she was having nightmares, waking up at night screaming about, don't get drafted, daddy. And so her worst nightmare has now come to fruition. So he has to break that news to her.
I know. I thought it was really touching when he was using science to talk her out of this terrified state she was in. Like, you're breathing oxygen, you're feeding your brain, and asking her all these questions. And it was calming her down because they had this very close relationship.
Yeah.
And you could tell. And with Emmy, I think she had every reason to be really terrified at this, because her job was working in a support group with people who had come back.
Yeah. And,
And
all of them were pretty fucked up.
they were. Not just, like, their body parts either. Like, they were really traumatized.
PTSD was
rampant.
Like, a guaranteed almost for anybody who came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which, speaking of the body, people losing limbs and the prosthetics and stuff, the character of Terry was the main guy with the 2 prosthetic legs that she was talking to. I immediately recognized him. Did you recognize him from something else he has been in recently?
I did not.
Okay, because obviously the prosthetics are real because his character in this other show that he was in recently also had the 2 prosthetic legs. He was a student at the high school in Lock and Key.
Really? Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what? That just goes to show how much we need another season of Lock and Key to come back, because it's been way too long.
It's supposed to be coming back
this fall, I thought.
Sometime soon, and we should be covering that over on Strange Indeed when it does.
You're going to be real busy. I have a feeling a lot of things are going to come back all at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, so he gets into the process. Drafting is done. Remove my shirt. What for? Well, because you're Chris Pratt in an action movie, and it kind of has to happen. So you understand.
I didn't think of it that way, but you know what? You're right. You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I have a little quote that, because here's format changes. We're not doing a quotes section. Sorry to ruin that for you guys, but especially with movies like this, sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with a good list, and so we were like, you know what? Sprinkle them in when we got them. And because we do that a lot anyway.
Yeah.
So the one where he's talking to his dad that I really like is when his dad freaks out and considers that he's wearing a wire.
Oh my gosh.
And so his retort to that is just like holding his shirt like up to his mouth. Be like, did you get that, guys? Send in Stevie Nicks.
That was also, though, when we were able to get a little bit of information from James, where he told us, okay, first, J.K. Simmons, amazing. Doesn't matter what he does, what he's in. He's just awesome. He explained a little bit. He told Dan that he left the family because he couldn't control himself after coming home from Vietnam. He had a lot of anger. He didn't recognize himself, and it would have been worse for his family if he had stayed. Dan isn't having it, though. He calls him a quitter, and he won't give him a second chance. And I'm thinking, sometimes, I think people make decisions because they're trying to do something good, even if it doesn't seem that at the time. And though he probably thought he was doing something that was right for his family, he left them in pieces. Like, they didn't have... He broke apart their family, and that is something that Dan has never been able to reconcile with. And I feel like as part of his arc, he really is facing the past and the future. Like, he's facing all of these things. He didn't want to go in this war, but he feels like he has to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can't remember what it is, but there's a movie or something that we have covered, or a TV show on another podcast or something that I've covered, where like this exact storyline where like somebody was like, I had to leave the family because I couldn't control my PTSD and blah, blah, blah. And then the family was like, no, it didn't work out. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, I mean, this exact theme has come up.
It has. It's sure. It's a theme that has happened a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And I think too that, and I don't have any like major gripes about this movie, but there were moments where I was like, okay, I feel like some of this has been done before.
Yeah.
In some ways better. And so it was just kind of...
It's not a bad movie.
No.
I enjoyed a lot about it, especially when we get to talking about the white spikes themselves.
Oh my goodness.
The creature effects and that kind of stuff. Incredible.
Yes.
But yeah, like main story themes and like kind of tropes. There's a lot of them that you're like, I've seen this before a million times in every other action movie that exists.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a ton to differentiate it between other films. I mean, I thought the acting was good. I think they did well with what they had. I think they put a lot of effort into the creatures. that came across to me, and I did do some digging, so I do have some things to share on that when we get to that section.
Awesome. Yeah, but yeah, you mentioned great, acting and stuff. We'll get to her more later, but I think Yvonne Strahovski crushed it in this movie.
There was a moment where she was staring down at that female creature, and I'm thinking, you are giving her your very best Serena Joy right now.
Oh, yeah. I love that, because, since, we've talked about that, last season when we were talking and she was doing that when you covered, House Podcastica, when you were on there covering Handmaid's Tale and stuff. It's like, oh, you get a little bit more Yvonne Strahovski now.
Yes. I think I first saw her on Dexter because I thought she killed it on Dexter. I think her character's name was Hannah. And she killed it.
She's so good.
She's, and we haven't got to that part yet. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about before we get there.
Yeah.
Before we get to her introduction. Because when Dan actually gets to the processing center, and I call it a processing center, it really, there were a few things that hit me. One, even before that, we see at the school that the principal's parking spot has a huge, memorial.
Yep.
So they're taking everyone. At that point. You're thinking, okay. And then when they all start coming in because they've been drafted, and you realize they're really taking anyone. The people coming in, I see people like that every day.
Yeah.
And
the only caveat with who they're taking is they are limited to who they can take. And we find that out. First, it's kind of hinted at while he's getting the little arm thing put onto him.
Yes.
Because they pull up a death certificate from the future on him.
Yeah.
But then it's more explicitly stated. And I was like, I already figured this out, but maybe they have to spell it out for some people. I don't know. But they did. They spelled it out. But yeah, they're only drafting and pulling people who naturally, who are going to die before the point in the future that they're jumping to.
Yes.
Just so there's not two versions of that person.
Exactly.
They took some good ideas as far as with the time paradoxes and stuff to try to. I'm sure if you dig into it too much, you're going to find all kinds of logical fallacies because
yes,
it's time travel in a movie, and you can never do it perfectly without somebody pulling it apart with this.
Always. But we're not going to strip it down here.
No.
No.
But I'm glad that they took that at least to be like, well, these people are all dead in that future anyway, so it's not going to mess with anything. I'm sure that they go to the future and then die before they were supposed to die anyway. There's going to be some babies that are now not going to be born, for sure. So it's still, there's the one pull apart I'll take is you're still affecting the future.
Yeah.
But I guess, spoiler, why are you listening if you haven't watched the whole movie anyway? That whole future really doesn't matter anyway because they all die and it all ends in...
Yeah.
Destruction anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess it really doesn't matter because they're going back and basically starting a new timeline from this point anyway.
Yes. And when we see, Dan is in the processing area, he really is one of the few experienced people. And he gets to know Charlie, who is terrified. We learn that Charlie is, he works for a tech company. He lost his wife because his wife was drafted in, I believe, the first waves.
Yeah.
And, this really isn't his sort of thing. He doesn't really want to do this. We also get to meet a few other people at the same time. Dorian, who's played by Edwin Hodge, a.k.a. Mr. Dante Bishop of The Purge. I was very happy he was in this film. He is so good in The Purge. He was in 3 of the films. He's the only actor that was in a succession of them. And he seems to have a death wish. And we meet 2 of my favorite characters who didn't last a real long time, but I really liked them a lot. Nora and Robert Cowan.
Yeah.
And they were just, to me, they represented the regular person that I would see. And seeing them come in, I'm like, he looks like he plays video games on his couch all day. I picture him as this big nerd. He's the nerdy guy. What is he doing here? And And I think that the reason I wanted to go through the character names and a little bit is because I feel like Dan realizes, they've got some time to put this all together, but the people that he has with him, they're not trained soldiers. They're just everybody.
Mm-hmm. They're just throwing bodies at the problem and seeing if they can make something happen.
Yeah. And so he gets to know a few of them. Dorian's kind of standoffish. But the others, he kind of gets to know them a little bit. And suddenly, they basically are told they have to go and jump.
Mm-hmm.
And way ahead of schedule.
Like the jump link is being attacked and we have to send you right now. No, they're barely going to give them any training at all, it seems. But now, nothing. Just go.
Yeah.
Because even when they're like preparing to jump and Charlie's fumbling with his gun, like he doesn't even know how to hold it. And he's like, well, here we go.
Yeah. And of course, Dan helps him out and gets it ready and says, this is a safety. And I'm like, okay, there you go. On the job training at its best. I felt for Dan because I feel like he was really trying to advocate for them, saying, these people are not ready to go. This is not going to work. He seemed to care about them, even though he didn't really know them very long. I think that, maybe his soldier training, I'm not sure, but I feel like he really seemed to care. I got that feeling from him in this whole movie that he did care about other people. He wasn't just like a one note. I'm a father and a husband, and that's all I am.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely showed a side of him that was like that past, especially once they are jumped and they have this whole moment where who's left after they all fall, and it was pretty gruesome. People like falling and breaking their backs and necks and just falling into the city.
Oh.
But who's left over? I mean, he gets on contact with Romeo Commander.
With no name at that point.
Yeah, just that's all it was the colonel. Romeo Commander just being like, okay, it's a rescue mission. You got to go to the research lab. Go now. And he just steps immediately into like soldier mode, and he's leading the remaining team members into the mission. He's like, okay, here's what we're doing. It's a research, search and rescue situation. Follow me. Even Dorian falls in line. Like it's very much like, all right, here we go. And he just becomes the leader.
Yeah, he does. And I think that the majority of those people survived as long as they did because he took charge. Because he did keep them as safe as possible. And he still, went by, I think, the mantra of not leaving anyone behind. And that comes into play a little bit later. So, as a group, they go on this mission to rescue the team. They find out the team is dead. But the colonel, still no name, wants him to recover these ampules that she needs to complete the research.
Yeah.
So basically,
we find out later, the research is this putting together the correct toxin that is able to kill all of these white spikes, these aliens, these creatures. And so these ampules are very important to get for that research team.
Yeah, so she's really focused on that. And they have a very difficult time. They lose some people. But they do achieve their mission, and they get the ampules. Unfortunately, Cowan falls through this. I don't even know what it was.
They were like, it was like they were on top of a like bridge.
Yeah.
Kind of like underpass to where then they it was like a bridge covering, but had holes in it, and he fell through.
He fell through, of course he did. Poor Cowan. Yeah, he fell through, and Dorian is really... I mean, he's got a death wish. I felt like he had a death wish from the beginning. But he's just like, you've got to leave him, and Dan wasn't hearing it. Which, again, goes back to Dan caring about other people and his team of people. Like, he had kept them alive. And at that point, he still had... Charlie was still alive. He still had Cowan, and he still had Nora. So, I mean, he'd been able to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Which I give him credit for, because I don't know how he did. But in the end, Nora stays behind with Cowan to kind of give a last ditch. Well,
she was shot or stabbed, whatever.
Spiked.
Had one of the spikes from the white spikes that had hit her, and so she was moving slow. She didn't have a lot of time anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was very heroic, and it was awesome from them to, stay off, to hold off the spikes, for the rest to be able to escape the tunnel.
Yeah.
Before the bombs hit it. I mean, technically they probably would have had plenty of time and made it out regardless because they didn't really hold off anything, but I will let them have their honor.
Yes.
So
Whatever. Yes. Because I liked them. We didn't see them long enough, but I was okay with it. Like, okay, you're going to go out in a blaze of glory. Go for it. But you're basically getting what Dorian wants, is to have this blaze of glory death.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to go out on his own terms because after all of this, they wake back up. Dan actually gets to meet the Colonel. And yes, hello, strong female character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she super, she didn't show a lot of emotion at that point. She was being very stern. And at this point, we learn who the Colonel really is.
Colonel Murray Forrester.
Yes. And she said that she sent for him. Like, she said it a couple of times, and I'm thinking, they never mentioned that. I mean, no one else ever mentioned it, but she did. Like, she had said it a couple times that...
Yeah, it's again, one of those, if you think about it, it'll bother you, and...
Yes, let it go.
Pitch Meeting on YouTube will tear it apart. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch that after we record. Because I'm already waiting for Ryan to talk about that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the whole thing. It's just like, seriously, you brought your dad from the past here because he's quote unquote like the only person you trust to do the right thing, or like anybody could have done that job. You didn't need to have him, but for the story wise and the drama, it serves it. So that's why they have to do it that way.
I just call it a happy little coincidence. Yvonne Strahovski, incredible. We've already said that. She's amazing.
Yeah.
The way that her facial expressions when, I think she, like I said, you know what? Practice on The Handmaid's Tale, facial expressions always come into play.
Emotional moments, she
nailed.
Was amazing.
Nailed. She was angry at him, but she didn't come out and yell. She was just very stern.
Mm-hmm.
Not warm and fuzzy. There was no father-daughter reunion moment at that point. She tells him who she is, basically, that she went to MIT, got a PhD, and she said...
She's awesome. Of course she went to MIT.
Of course she went to MIT.
As smart as she was, when she was 9, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a touching moment because, it has that, oh my God, I must have been so proud of you. But we already kind of find out that he died. I mean, we got his death certificate back when he was being drafted.
Yeah.
That he died 7 years after that point, which she would have been
16.
I think she says 16 is where that lines up.
Yeah.
Before she would have gone to college or been accepted to a college. So he wasn't around to be proud of her. So it's kind of a touching moment to at least he has a chance to be proud of her for that now.
Yes. Because he didn't have the opportunity. And, but she's honest with him too. She's like, the circumstances are dire here. It's not sentimental to her. She brought him there for a reason, and she would tell him when she was ready. I think the reason was she knew what she had to do, and she needed to send him back with the toxin, and he was the only one she trusted to go back with it. Because she knew that he would do whatever it took.
Yeah.
And that's what she needed. That was what her father had instilled in her when she was little, is doing whatever it takes. And that's what he does.
Yeah. And it instills that, again, that kind of theme of doing what it takes. But also, he has to redeem himself from his past, but also his future that he hasn't done yet, but learns about. It's this weird, but because we get this whole scene where he finds out what happened, how he died, and what happened with his family even before that. And it was really rough. You can tell it affected him deeply because she reveals to him that, he ended up doing the same things that he hated his father for, that his relationship with his wife, for whatever reason, kind of got rocky. And as Murray was going into her teenage years, they separated and divorced, and he basically abandoned them like his father did him.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have driven him to do that, and they don't really talk about it. because it seems like the absolute last thing he would ever do.
Especially the Dan that we got to know.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like something his character would do at all.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really, really odd.
Yeah.
That would happen.
But I guess the purpose of it, is then it drives him. Like he said, he's almost making up for his mistakes that he hasn't even made yet.
Yeah. And that puts him in such a difficult situation because he's trying to be sorry for something he hasn't done.
Yeah.
And doesn't understand why he did. And it's very confusing to him. Because I and I feel like he does feel the need to like redeem himself. And I'm just like, but you didn't do anything. Again, I'm really interested to see if this is brought up in the pitch meeting because...
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
If you guys don't know, Ryan George does pitch meetings on YouTube, and... Yeah,
it's a part of the Screen Rant YouTube channel. He does a series where he takes a movie and then he pretends to be like the screenwriter pitching the movie to like a movie, like, producer, executive kind of thing. And it's just, they rip apart. Even the best movies, they find all the little flaws and logical errors and just tear it apart. So it's one of those things, if you go into it knowing that's what they're going to do for comedic effect, and don't let it paint you negatively on a movie too much, because even some of my favorite movies, they have done these too, and you just have to laugh at it and be like, yeah, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense when you really think about it. If you pull that string enough, it unravels.
Peg, did they do one on The Happening?
They did.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to watch that, because when I think about a pitch meeting, I try to think of a movie that really was not making the most sense.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want. I want to see him breaking it down, because the guy, he breaks it down to himself playing a different character. It's just hilarious. Yeah, so funny.
It's great. So I, for those who don't know, that's what I keep talking about. As I purposely held off on watching his pitch meeting video for the Tomorrow War, because I didn't want it to paint too much of what we're talking about right now as we're recording it. But like while watching it, I was like, well, he's gonna hate that. He's gonna make fun of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Murray, adult Murray. And I tried to, when I was putting my notes, I was trying to come up with child Murray, adult Murray. Like, how do I differentiate? And so basically it's just, in the future Murray, she shows Dan the difference between the males and the females and explains to him that, in full scientific terminology, that the toxin kills the males, but the female lives. They don't know why. And she thinks that the female's physiology is a key to getting rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a hive, like swarm kind of thing. Yeah. It's like a queen bee.
Yep.
Here's a movie I do remember the theme coming up in when we did Attack the Block. It's similar, these alien creatures who are all kind of serving the like queen female kind of thing, and they will do anything to destroy anything that harms her or threatens that. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys, same thing. Absolutely the same thing. We see that not too far from after this point in the movie.
Yeah.
That they reminded me a lot of World War Z and how the zombies infected, I think they were zombies. I'm going to call them zombies. Were climbing up walls and climbing up on top of each other to get over walls and things like that. But they locate the female. And when they go to get her, that's when Murray gives the female what I call the Serena Joy look. She just looked at her and I'm like, yes, Serena Joy, we get it.
Mm-hmm.
But still, she doesn't want to really go into too much about what happened with her father and him leaving. But then she finally does and explains what happens. She does give Dan some information that I think helps him figure things out. I mean, he taught her. He was her science teacher at the beginning of her life. he fostered her love of science. And so they were really lucky to have her, but he played a big part in her being who she is and pursuing science as a career the way that she did. But she gives him the information that, they were stealthy and they weren't detected by any radars. And one day they just woke up and started tearing apart Russia.
Yeah.
And he has these, what I call puzzle pieces that he has to put together. And that's one of the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, for sure. Which I didn't even really catch on to that until that moment. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Which we'll get there. But
yes, we will.
Yeah, as of right now, they get the female back, and she's got to run all these tests to find the right toxin that can take out the female as well, which they finally do. And that's kind of the plan, is you need to survive long enough for your jump back to your time to where you can take this toxin. It's like, the world is screwed. We're done.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have enough time to mass produce it, and there's too many of them. We're overrun. Our population's too low. So you have to take it back 30 years in the past before these attacks happen and be able to use the toxin.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the plan. So it's abandon the future to, fight in the past and have a new future, a second chance at the future.
Yeah, I think her original idea was to have him go back and reproduce the toxin and then bring it back. The problem is,
I don't know if she ever had that plan, but he sure thought that's what the plan was.
He thought that's what the plan was.
And it was so frustrating to me, because then he's just like, I'll come back for you. It's like, no, don't worry about here. Worry about her when she's young, back in your past, and build from there.
Yes.
Because even when he jumps back and he's like, we have to mass produce it and then take it back. And it's like, well, the jump link is down now. And I was like, you missed the point completely, didn't you, dude? Like, no, you need to take it and mass produce it and fix the problem before it ever happens.
Yes.
She explicitly tells him, make sure this moment never happens.
Yes. Because she had already decided that. I think she knew it was hopeless, to be honest. I think Muri knew it was hopeless. And the only way that they would have a chance is if she found the toxin and he took it back. Yeah. Because they could figure out a way. She knew her dad would, because he loved his daughter and would be affected by seeing his daughter, he watched her fall into a pit of white spikes, basically.
Yeah, which again, he jumps after her and luckily gets jumped back before, but like, I get, like, they want to show that, like, oh, he really loves his daughter. And
he does,
like, but it was pissing me off at that point, honestly, while I'm watching. Because, like, seriously, you could have died jumping after her into this, like, horde of white spikes. She was dying anyways. Like, then the whole point of you taking it back would have just been gone.
Yep.
And I was like, that was incredibly irresponsible and
stupid.
Like, he's just clouded. His judgment's completely clouded by, like, I need to save my daughter now. It's like, no. Do what she wants and go back.
Yes.
It seemed like he was behind on what the movie's plot actually was for a little bit. You're like, catch on, dude.
I do wonder. Yes, I'm already picturing in my head the pitch meeting. It's going to be funny. So we're very lucky that after the white spikes invade that whole last ditch safe space that they had, that he does disappear and actually lands back in the present time, and he has the toxin there, and he won't let go of it. I mean, I think the doctor he's just like, where's the toxin? She's like, it's in your hand. We couldn't get it out of your hand. And then he looks at Charlie, and Charlie is like basically face down and traumatized. Yeah. Because he did survive. But he's
traumatized, but also like ashamed of himself. Yes. Because the only way he survived was just
by hiding
and not do anything.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I would have done the same thing. Yeah. Not blaming you.
No, I mean...
I didn't choose this.
No. He didn't want to go. So... Dan is back in present time, not the future.
The now past.
So confusing. I feel like we need to have like a PowerPoint presentation and some grids on the screen to share with our listeners to help them navigate through the timeline of this movie. And he goes to see the one person that he feels can help him. But he goes and talks to Dorian, basically.
Mm-hmm.
After talking to his wife and figuring out.
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously very shell-shocked when he returns to his family.
Yes.
I mean, seeing Murray is bringing him to thinking about how he literally just watched her die in front of him.
Yeah.
But like he now needs to focus on a mission because he's already succeeded in the hardest part of it.
Which is leaving her.
And so now he just needs to keep it from happening in this new timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna like try to put that together. And so he goes to talk to Dorian, figures that stuff. You know, they kind of put together kind of an idea of.
Well, he and Emmy kind of what I call puzzle piece number 2.
Yeah.
Figure out that the aliens came before 2048. They don't know when, but they know it was before 2048. So Dan goes to see Dorian, who still thinks everything is hopeless.
Yeah. Which his reasoning, you had to go into.
Yeah. I mean, we had learned that Dorian has a reason for being the way that he is. 1, he served 3 different tours going over there. 2, he's dying of cancer in 6 months. I mean, again, like what Dan realized is being told that when you're going to die, like, but not how. I mean, Dorian knew how, but to be told that and have to live with that. And Dorian is just like, he wants to go out on his own terms. Like, that's...
Yeah, I love his line, kind of, I don't have it exactly, but what he says, he's like, I'd rather die this way than just sitting at home... Waiting to die, suffering from cancer. It's like, at least I go out doing something that matters.
Yes. But he still thinks it's hopeless. Like, he thinks this whole thing is hopeless. And he wants, Dorian to help him. And Dorian doesn't really want to. I think he doesn't buy into it. But then Dan says to him, I'm not a hero. I was trying to save my daughter. If I gotta save the world to save her, then I'm damn sure gonna do it. And then Dorian finally wakes up from his depressive sleep and says, what kind of selfish dick doesn't help a man trying to save his daughter? Mm-hmm. So they go to see Charlie.
Yeah.
Who is this great scientist, and basically are looking into the claw that Dorian's been wearing around his neck.
Yeah.
And realize, puzzle key number 3, that Charlie determines that it's ash from China and Korea in the claw. Which leads us to puzzle piece number 4. Who on earth, and we didn't even talk about this at the top of the podcast, that Dan has a student obsessed with volcanoes.
Of course. Random volcano-obsessed kid.
Always. Always. So Martin, he goes to Martin. And it honestly, for me, it felt like Martin was on an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he's being asked the $1 million question. Because he's been waiting his whole life for this, to sit down. And so he basically says, he talks to them, explains the Millennium Eruption, and they figure out that the aliens dug out after the ice melt. So they've been here for quite some time.
Yeah.
They've got all this information, though, and they can't do anything with it because the government doesn't want to help them, even though they like to take credit for it later. Government doesn't want to help them.
Yeah, of course. That's how that goes. So of course, the military government guy is going to say no, because that's how these movies work, is these guys are dumb.
But remember, they create the character of the military guy to be that way, like on purpose. They want us to not like him. Mm-hmm. And it worked, because I was really angry with him. I'm like, excuse me, he's just been to the future and got the one thing that can stop this whole thing, and you're just worried about borders.
You're about taxpayer money.
Yeah, no.
We spent taxpayer money to save the world? I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be worth it.
Oh my God. I don't know.
And then when they do save the world at the end. To jump ahead to that, he's the one on TV taking credit for the whole thing.
Yes, that made me so mad.
Eat a dick, Dodd. Again.
Not happy about that.
Taking credit for what they did after you told them, no, they can't do it.
Yeah, okay. I was not pleased with that. That pissed me off. One of a few things that pissed me off in this movie. I just feel like, again, at this point, Dan is faced with that line that he gave to his daughter about being willing to do what no one else will do. Like going the extra mile and doing it. Dorian's all on board because he wants to go kill him. He's totally down. And then I have only a couple of quotes left. Charlie says, "We need a plane and a pilot willing to commit an international felony. There's no way we can get there." Oh my God. And lo and behold, Dan happens to know someone who would be willing to do that, especially because, the government wasn't willing. And so
world leaders are garbage trash. So
yes. Do it yourself. That's the motto.
Just look to J.K. Simmons. He'll do it for you.
He'll do it for you. So he goes to his father, and he's very calm about it. Like he just says, "I need a plane and a pilot to fly undetected into Russian airspace so I can get a team of soldiers to the top of a glacier island in order to find an alien spaceship." Of course.
It's a normal Tuesday.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And on Wednesday, we'll be taking a deep dive to Atlantis. I mean, come on, this is what we're doing. And of course, his dad is willing to help him. And I feel like that's the first step toward their reconciliation. I was happy at that point. I know it's a long road ahead, but I just was feeling like, okay, this could be the opportunity for them to rebuild their relationship, and I'm glad. Because again, it's another part of the Dan story, because this is the Dan Forrester story. The whole thing. I mean, there's not a lot of other stuff that you can say. And luckily, there were a couple of those future soldiers who are experienced in fighting the White Spikes that were still left behind, really. They couldn't get back home. Yeah. Not that there was a home to go to. So they go with Dan. They're willing to go. And
what else are they going to do? Their whole mission and purpose was to fight this war. So now that you're still in the past, but we have the toxin, we can still fight. This is what we're doing. This is the mission.
Exactly. And they figured it out through all these puzzle pieces where the aliens are. And the
aliens that crashed were just like a different random alien species. Because at first when they get onto the ship, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, how did these white spikes fly a ship? They're like animals. And I was like, oh, they didn't. There was an actual like intelligent species that crash landed on Earth, and the white spikes were like the cargo is what they called them. They get like planet killing weapons. Like whether they were meant for Earth or not,
no one knows. And they even mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot to say, I don't think, about the rest of the movie. Even I feel like they go down and they do the job, and Dorian goes out the way Dorian wants to go out. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die my way.
Yeah, because they inject the toxin into a good number of them, and they die.
Yeah.
But then, of course, that kind of awakens the other ones, and they all bust out, and so they have to have this whole big, blow up the ship to take out most of them, except for the female who escaped. And they have to have a final showdown with her, which was awesome. But
I liked the creatures in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they were really well constructed. There was one point where she's fighting and they're shooting her, and she just has this bum arm. It's like she bites it off and throws it aside, and I'm just
he stabs the toxin into one of her arms, and it starts spreading to kill her. So she bites off her leg to stop the spreading.
Yes.
It's like, okay. That's really cool.
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, you mentioned Dorian blows up the ship and goes with it.
Yeah.
But also those future soldiers were also in there with him, and they went.
And they went as well, yeah.
And I was like, which timeline-wise, I guess is for the best, because they will be born in a few years, so...
Probably good. Yeah, it's probably best. Lieutenant Hart and Sergeant Diaz. They were the ones from the future. Yeah, I thought the final fight was pretty amazing because James and Dan just go after it because they're left with Charlie. Like, those are the only three. And I love that Charlie got a saw out and sawed one of them. Like,
so cool.
I'm just like, Charlie decided he was not going to be hiding, so he went for it. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. I was down for that. I'm like, yep, you go, Charlie.
Yeah, that final fight. Like, so I have it in my notes for the White Spikes, but it was epic. And so just to talk about it, I mean, James having like the snowman decoy.
Yes.
And, he's willing to sacrifice himself, but then Dan saves him and then uses the claw to like slice it up and then has it bite down on a vial of toxin at the end and then kicks it off the cliff as it like melts and then splatters on the rocks below. It was really epic. It was a great showdown there.
Yeah, I loved it. It reminded me a little bit of the Meg when he was slicing her up. Just a little bit. Like, oh, okay, yeah. It's kind of like the Meg. Jonas in the, slicing the second Meg up. But I liked it a lot. I thought there were some things wrong with this movie, but the creatures were not one of them.
No.
I was totally down. I thought the effect work was fantastic.
And then my last note that I have on Dan is just the ending of the movie. I actually did like the way that they ended it.
Me too.
I said he's kind of rebuilding relationship, and I guess the future that Muri had talked about isn't going to happen because now he knows don't leave your wife, I guess.
Yeah.
But, they seem to be doing a lot better. But I do think he mentions, and it's probably the best, that he does not ever tell Muri about his interactions with her future self in the now avoided future. Mm-hmm. Because that would be a lot for her to take for no reason. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's probably best that you don't tell her that you met a future version of herself that now actually won't ever exist and then watched her die. That's just trauma waiting to happen. Don't do it.
Yeah, no. I would, definitely not. Yeah, I feel like this story, the bulk of it, I mean, it was an alien war story, but a lot of it had to do with a father and the love for his daughter, whether in the present or the future. And doing the right thing, just that quote from the beginning where he's telling her, you got to say to yourself, I will do what nobody else is willing to do. And that is how she knew that she had to give the toxin to him because she knew that he would be willing to do it.
Yeah.
But those are all my notes as well. I feel like we've covered so much of the characters.
Yeah, and it all is kind of based on him. So I'll run through my other notes.
Okay.
For all the other characters, plus just other random notes.
Okay.
Because it probably won't take me too long just to go through some of the things that I have written down that we haven't talked about. I have a couple too,
so I'll do mine after.
So it's going to be just kind of random, out of order in different places in the movie, but just going through it. Just stay away from areas with red smoke, she says, as they literally run into a cloud of red smoke.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That makes so much sense.
And that, let's see. Do I have anything? Oh, Charlie. I had a couple little things. Charlie hates the beach because he got stung by jellyfish, which I also have been stung by jellyfish, and it is not pleasant, so I don't blame him.
It is not fun.
I love the little kind of thing between Charlie and Dan as they're waiting for the initial jump. He says, how do you know all of this stuff? He goes, it's kind of a long story. He goes, are you like ex-military? He goes, yeah. More of a short story, I guess.
I know, small talk. It's small talk.
Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Talked about Dorian. The soldiers from the future arrived and ruined a big World Cup game, so that was weird.
That wasn't fun. Wrong timing, guys.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think that is it on characters. I have a lot of notes about the White Spikes themselves that I know you also.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We got to
talk creatures.
Oh my god, we have so much to talk about with them.
So I'm ready to go there if you are.
I have just a couple things. Mostly on Charlie. I thought it was kind of convenient that his doctorate was in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences. And I did love when he was running down the stairs when they were in the building and he was just saying shit. And then Dan looks up and says,
that sums it up.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
That's exactly how I would feel in that situation with that one just coming down the stairs.
Yes.
Just that whole time I was just like remembering what they said earlier, and I was like almost like yelling at my TV. I'm like, throats and abdomens, throats and abdomens, throats and abdomens.
Well, okay, so let's jump into the white spikes, because I have a bunch of stuff. Like, I have notes that are on that we learned from the movie. Also notes about them themselves, about the creation of them, which I think are really cool.
Yeah.
So we learn when they're sitting in the therapy session that the clicking sound that one starts, the others chime in.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are food, and they're hungry. You have to shoot them in the throat and abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
After 6 days, they disappear.
Which is so strange and interesting. Like
It's
the
like,
Sabbath.
I know.
Like the Sabbaths, as they call it, where like they go back to their nests and rest every week.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Are they Christians? Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know.
It's like they have this hive mind kind of thing, so like they have to recharge. I don't know. They don't really ever explain it.
No.
So it's just kind of a thing. It's convenient for the plot because then they have a time where they can bring people in and out.
Yeah, it helps the plot. There were a few things that I really liked, like visuals. I liked when they showed us, I believe it was Nora was looking through the binoculars, and there was like this reflection or something on the binoculars where you could see the white spikes coming in and taking people away to be eaten.
Yeah.
I thought that
like the people just like get blasted by spikes and just like fall.
Yeah.
And then they come in. Because, you notice like the spikes sticking out of the walls and windows and stuff. It's like, why? Spikes. Oh,
yeah,
I
that's
get
why
it.
they're
That makes
called
sense.
white spikes.
They shoot spikes at people. Great. And then eat them.
Greater. Mm-hmm. I liked when they showed them gliding to get to the helicopter.
Yeah. I was like, and they glide. Of course they do. Yes. Wonderful.
They're like leaf wings. Like they, they're creepier.
Which ended up with the helicopter blade maneuvering to like sky blend them. That was cool.
That was cool. I liked that as well. I liked when the cruise ship was coming into the big safe place that became not safe anymore, where they were, where the jump station was. And we see this cruise ship coming in. It's like partially like offside. And there's all of these white spikes on it. And I'm just thinking, oh, they wanted to go on a vacation. Carnival Cruises. Wasn't sure, I'm like, okay. So that's how they got there. I don't think they swam the whole way. I think they probably hopped a ship. I don't know. We didn't really see that.
Yeah.
With that.
Had a minefield in the water that was blowing a bunch of them up, which was cool.
Yeah, I liked that. Like, they did a lot of effects things that I liked.
Yeah. Now, CGI was very wonky in some cases.
Yes,
like
it was.
People are getting torn apart by white spikes. I was like, is that person made out of rubber? I don't know.
Come on. It's not as bad as Turkey.
Oh, no. I've seen worse CGI. Definitely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We learned that the toxins can kill the males, but the female's able to survive by breaking down the toxin.
Yeah. And
the area that they found them on the glacier in Russia was a crash site, which we already talked about. And those are all the notes I have about the white spikes that aren't related to their creation.
Cool. I have a couple of notes kind of mainly about, not like creation, but their, visual, what they look like and things like that. Because I remember like them talking about it, I was like, I am really interested to see what these things look like. And then when you see them in that stairwell, it was like, bring me back to like The Descent. Like these like creepy, they were, oh my God, done so well. Because I was just like, damn, that is truly horrifying. Like creepy as hell. So I was like, yeah, Charlie summed it up nicely. Like, shit.
You know what I wrote down? Definitely on my list at the end of the season.
Already, episode 1 of the new season.
We're starting with it. Oh my gosh.
Looking forward to talking about that. Yeah, I mean, they are fucking terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
I have in my notes, I said, it's the dog-like way that they run that's unnerving. Well, that and the teeth.
Yes.
And the spike launching appendages.
Yes.
And the eyes. And the whole murdering everyone thing. And the sounds they make. and the everything else about them.
Yeah. Everything.
Like,
it's
just
not
everything about them is horrifying, and it was they look so cool.
They were so good. I loved that part of the movie. I mean, it made up for the shortcomings in many ways.
It was like, main themes and plot and story had a lot of like weird kind of holes or, tropes. It was lacking in a lot of places, but where they lacked in like characters and story and stuff, they made up for in creature.
Oh my gosh,
creation for sure.
So good. I am so excited. It's a newer movie, and that they came out and gave us creatures that are going to stick with me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to be thinking about the white spikes. They were very scary. Very scary. I think it was very smart of them not to show any of the, not recruits, but the draftees, what the white spikes looked at, because they would have just run away. They would never have shown up. I mean, they all looked terrified. That was something about this film that stood with me, is the people coming in the chutes. They were terrified. They didn't want to go. A lot of them were they looked horrified that they were being pulled in for this. And probably they did the same thing to them that they did to Dan, where they just are like, take your shirt off, stick your arm in here. We're going to do this. And it turns out, I love that he said to them, is it a driving test? Because they buckled him in. And
and he gets a little perturbed at that point. I like who they're like, they want to give him like the mouth guard so he doesn't bite his tongue off, whatever. And it's just like bite down. And finally he's like, I'm going to bite your fucking finger off if you don't back off and give me a second. Yeah. Like, he starts getting pretty annoyed.
I liked it though. I liked that he was feisty and pushing back, because I feel like this was the best opportunity to do that with people. And he knows that his daughter's going to be terrified because of all the nightmares. So, I mean, justified, because the creatures were incredibly terrifying. So what else do you got on those creatures?
That's it. That's all I had. It was just a couple of notes. Yeah.
All right. Well, I read a couple of articles, and our beloved director for this film, Chris McKay, had a lot of ideas when he was putting all of this together. And he worked with this effects artist, Ken Bartholomew, who has also worked on Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla King of the Monsters, a little film called Detective Pikachu, and he's also on the team for the upcoming Thor Love and Thunder. And one of the main challenges he was given at the start was to make sure the creature appeared menacing and real while designing something that was fresh and new. I think they managed it, balancing realism and imagination. So here are some of the little tidbits that I learned about the creation of the monsters. They wanted the monsters to be vicious creatures that attack everything in sight. Check. They had so many different ways of being lethal. Their jaws, their arms, the tentacles, shooting spikes, and they were really agile and quick. McKay wanted the creatures to be compelling and intelligent, and he gave a couple of examples as H.R. Geiger's Alien, and then also Hellraiser as reference points. The head was inspired by deep-sea fish, such as the viperfish.
I could see that with the teeth and stuff, yeah.
More aquatic with tentacle-like legs that later became tails on the back. Small front arms that are based on mantis claws with back plates looking like a grasshopper shell. Initially, they were translucent, but the skin became rougher with cracks and sharp spikes because McKay wanted it to look like it would hurt if you touched it. Weta Digital, of course, worked on the textures, always. And their behavior was based on insects crawling and jumping. And I got that 100% in the way that they were acting. So those are all the notes I have on the white spikes.
Nice.
Tons of great articles. And I could have even gone further down rabbit holes because Ken Bartholomew has a website with lots of links to different articles on his work in this film. So I only went to a few of the articles. I may have to go back, though, and revisit them because I'm really curious about the rest of it. Otherwise, I mean, this could be a 4-hour podcast, and I don't want to do that. Do you have any other notes or anything?
I think I have exhausted my list.
Oh, my goodness.
I think I'm through.
All right.
Got all of them.
Okay, so here are some other tidbits that are not related to the White Spikes. So, Chris McKay, the director, he's only directed a few films, but he worked as an editor on the Lego Movie, which also starred Chris Pratt. And he's directing the upcoming Nightwing film, as well as Jonny Quest. I think they're doing a live action Jonny Quest. I think they've tried that before. Not sure it's ever really translated well.
Mm-hmm.
The film went through the following title changes. Ghost Draft, Generation Alien, World War A, Generation Gone, Saving Private Ryan, WWZ2, but with A's, not Z's, so WWA2, Horizon White Spike, Hero Movie brought to you by Verizon, Jurassic Draft, Generation Draft, Miller Genuine Draft, City Slickers, Alien Dawn, Rapture Dawn, Apocalypse Dawn, Hero Dawn, Destiny War, Saving Tomorrow, and the Tomorrow War. Chris Pratt, who was an executive producer on the film, I think this is his first time being an executive producer, chose the last one as the title of the film. Thank you, because a lot of those other ones were just silly.
Working titles, which is fun.
Yeah. Always. Ghost Draft was the main working title before they changed it. I already talked about Ken Bartholomew working. He worked with visual effects supervisor James Price. I think they work pretty well together.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons was cast after the director saw some old 2016 viral photos of the actor with a buff old man look, where he was extremely muscular with a long shaggy white beard.
I've seen those pictures. They're pretty great.
Yeah. Sam Richardson was always Chris McKay's first choice to play the part of Charlie. He was great as Charlie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The acting, they did well with what they had. I have no complaints about the acting at all.
Mm-mm.
In the original script, the soldiers from the past were secretly poisoned with a toxin, which eventually killed the aliens who consumed them. This plot twist explained why they did not need training. They were always meant to be expendable bait, but that wasn't included in the movie.
Yeah, that might have been a little on the darker side.
Yes. No, no. Let's not do that.
I mean, maybe it would have worked, but...
Yeah, but... The Vatnajökull Glacier in Iceland, which was used for winter Russian scenes, had never been filmed on before. A few weeks prior to them starting shooting, a couple's bodies had been discovered down a fissure, and they appear to have been preserved since about 1940.
Dang.
Yeah. Most of the actors had to go through some sort of weapons training boot camp. During the film, when the military man talks about how the time travel works, he says it's like putting chicken wire together with bubble gum, which is a clear reference to a scene in the time travel movie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I thought that was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Deadline reported last month that Skydance and Amazon are in talks to produce a sequel that would be directed by McKay, written by Zach Dean, and with stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, and J.K. Simmons, all returning.
I don't like that idea.
I don't either. Leave it alone.
I think it's good as a standalone.
Me too.
Because I think if you start playing with a sequel, well, then what was the point of this movie? It's kind of...
Yeah.
They fixed the problem.
Yeah.
So then if you're bringing back, especially Strahovski, it's like, well, then what are you doing with the timeline? I mean, like...
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Yeah, no.
Other than, like, it's just in this new timeline, but they didn't get all of them, or there's another... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
But...
They don't even know where the thing landed. Let's not go there. Close the door. It's not like Attack the Block when...
Not everything needs a sequel.
No, it doesn't. Some movies can use a sequel, and it's a wonderful thing. Others, close the door and end it.
Yeah. Now, that said, if they do make the sequel, I'll watch it and we'll probably cover it.
Yes, we will.
But I won't like it. I won't be happy about it.
After all, I mean, we did cover a movie called Thanksgiving. So I feel like, we'll go down that road for sure. One thing I want to mention is one thing that we didn't talk about that I couldn't end this podcast without saying that the little girl, Ryan Kira Armstrong, who played little Murray Forrester, the 9-year-old, I thought she did a fantastic job.
She was awesome and so adorable.
So I didn't want to end without saying that because I feel like she did a fantastic job.
Yes.
And I feel like child actors don't get enough credit. Although I think we give them proper credit on Run for Your Lives.
Try to.
We do. We try to give it. We try to make sure that they get some attention because their hard work definitely needs to be acknowledged.
All right. So with that, I guess that wraps up our coverage and conversation about the Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I think that's it.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. And something else that didn't go away. The feedback phone is back, and I want to know what people think about the Tomorrow War. So let's go find out.
All right, we have a little bit of feedback this week. Always happy to see what you guys have to say. And we're back for season 3, so I'm glad that some of you guys are back with us. Hopefully, everybody's back with us, and more. Hopefully, there's new people back with us, too. So, welcome back to Run for Your Lives. Of course, hope you enjoyed this first episode. And now we will get to what some people had to say about things. Of course, the first one, I guess, one thing, we've changed some of the format of things for this season, but one thing that will remain the same is our first bit of feedback will be something related to not this movie.
I love that, though.
But that is totally cool. We love that. Yeah, anytime you have thoughts about previous movies and things like that, always hit us up. Of course, our good friend Damien, his up with some Jurassic Park related things because we did kind of make some posts in our off season about some of our previous episodes. We are big Jurassic fans. There's stuff coming up for you guys soon, I promise. So I love that he had to say a couple of things. So here's what Damien had to say about the first Jurassic Park. At least it's kind of related to it. He says, if you haven't already, I suggest watching the Jurassic Park episode of The Movies That Made Us on Netflix. It's maybe an hour and very entertaining and informative. I need to check it out. I haven't
seen that.
I haven't watched it yet. I've seen it. Netflix keeps yelling at me to watch it every time I open Netflix. It's like, here, do this. I'm like, so I do need to check it out, but it's good. I'm glad to know that it's good and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then about a post we made on Jurassic Park 2 on the Lost World Jurassic Park. He says, I think I like Jurassic Park 3 more, but this is a good movie. Really enjoyed Jeff Goldblum in a lead role, and Vince Vaughn played a very good character. Yes.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, our coverage of the Lost World Jurassic Park is season 1 of this podcast. It's in our first 25 episodes. So you haven't heard that, go back and check it out. Because, yeah, we had a lot of good things to say about Goldblum and Vaughn.
Yes, we did. We had so much fun with that. Imagine, we recorded that probably about a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy to think.
I know. We had our 1-year anniversary of Run for Your Lives during our break. So, Tony, hi, Tony. Glad to have you back with us. She had a few things to say about the Tomorrow War. A very forgettable movie, in my opinion. I would like to tell you what I didn't like, but I can't remember any of it. I remember that nothing was a surprise. Very predictable movie. The aliens' design effects were well done. I watched it once, would never watch it again. Happy you're back. Hope you had a nice break. I didn't like this one, but I know you'll cover something I love eventually. You always do. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words. And just happen to have it on pretty good authority that I think we might have some things coming up that you're really going to like soon. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yep. That's the only hint you get.
Yeah. I think, as you've listened to this episode before you got to this part here, we had a lot of things to say about what we did like, and a lot of it was about the design and the effects and things like that, because story plot wise, yeah, I think we mentioned it's pretty predictable. It is. It's nothing to write home about necessarily, but it's fun for what it is, for sure. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I love that Tony gives us that feedback, because you don't have to love the movie to give us feedback.
No.
Feedback is whatever you want to say. If we cover a movie that you just absolutely hate, tell us why, because we might have fun with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you may learn that you're on the same page that we are.
Yeah.
So that can be really cool as well.
Yeah. And then for our last bit of feedback, would this be a Run for Your Lives feedback section without some live Steving from our good friend Steve Brown?
I know. Gosh, it's been a while. But here we go.
Hello, Daphne and Pake. Welcome back from your hiatus. Is that what? Hiate? Yeah, with an 8 in the middle. The Tomorrow War. Man, I freaking love this movie. Absolutely. If anybody listens to the Wilhelm podcast where I talked about war movies, this was my number 5 overall. Like, from the first time I watched it, I told Ben on that podcast, I said, man, as soon as I watched it the first time, I was like, wow, this is a great movie. And so that's why I put it as my number 5. I watched it again before we podcasted about it. So I'm not going to try to live Steve it, because it's hard to live Steve something that you've seen more than once, especially. But gosh, oh, so good. Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski. I have such a crush on her. She's amazing. I love her. And I just love all the stuff about this movie. So I can't wait to hear you guys talk about it. I love that they included the Bullet Mustang in it. I love that J.K. Simmons is in it. And he's playing this, like, badass assassin who just, like, kills things. And, like, he knows how to kill things. It's just great. The humor was great. Marilyn Rice Cube is amazing. I loved her from 24. So, yeah, I cannot wait to hear you guys talk about this one. I love the Tomorrow War, and it's going to be a great one.
All right.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's interesting to get Steve's feedback compared to what Tony said. Yeah. It just goes to show that different people have different thoughts on things.
Yeah, that's the great thing about movies, is like people can have all kinds of different opinions. There are movies that are highly acclaimed by people that I know that I can't stand. Or, I have, like, I won't talk about that because I'm not going to belittle somebody else's movies that they love. But on the other side of that, I have friends, like, I'm a big fan of Inglourious Bastards, and I have a friend who just rips that to shreds every chance he gets. And I'm like, how dare you? So, yeah, I mean, people have those different opinions. So hopefully, Steve, listening to this podcast, I don't think we loved it as much as you did, but hopefully we had plenty of nice things and good things to say about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you would like to submit feedback like Steve, Tony, and Damien, you can submit your theories and feedback via our Facebook page at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. We are at RFYL Podcast on Twitter and at Run for Your Lives Podcast on Instagram. Most of all, if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much any podcast player available, including YouTube. We do have a YouTube file up there. You can get all the links that you will ever need by going to our website, runforyourlivespodcast.com, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We definitely appreciate it.
For sure. Always appreciate the love and the shares and the views and everything. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and give a couple of shout outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us. Of course, my other podcast, Strange Indeed, up and running. We just wrapped up our coverage of the first season of Sweet Tooth. I adore that show so much. I had a lot of fun covering that. So if you watch that season, that show, our coverage of all 8 episodes are out now at Strange Indeed. So go check those out. I think we're off this week, and then next week we will be coming at you with the brand new Mike Flanagan Netflix series, Midnight Mass. Things are about to get real scary over on Strange Indeed, thanks to Mike Flanagan. He always makes it creepy.
I can't imagine Mike Flanagan coming out with a show and Strange Indeed not covering it, because you've been covering all of them.
I say we. It was before my time on the show, but Rima and Sean covered Haunting of Hill House. And then me and Rima covered Bly Manor. We covered Dr. Sleep, which he directed. So, yeah, we are Flanagan fans for sure over there. So, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for Midnight Mass. Everything I've seen, which isn't a ton, looks very creepy and right up my alley. I'm excited to check it out.
He is good with the creepy. And it's...
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't looked into too much of it either, because I'm trying to go in pretty blind.
Yeah. It's different when you podcast about something. You try, I think, to be disconnected so that when you watch it, you've got fresh eyes and you get fresh opinion. And it just can help make it a little clearer.
Yeah.
But then the fan in me is going bananas, wanting to see everything, but not being able to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's a double-edged sword.
For sure. But it's always fun and always worth it.
I loved what you guys did with Sweet Tooth. That show was clever and cute and just so much fun, even though it got scary at times.
It also got really dark, intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good balance. We will be back in that world. Yeah. And then, of course, other shows that aren't just my other show. I guess we can talk about other people's too, if we want to.
I'm kidding. Do you want to?
But yeah, if you are a fan of Marvel, What If has been incredible. I'm really loving What If on Disney Plus. So if you want some coverage of those, you can always check out our friend Jason on House Podcastica. Him and a rotating little group of guest hosts, including Daphne was on one recently.
Yes.
Covering episodes of What If. And then also our good friend Derek over at TV Podcast Industries. Him and his co-hosts have been covering What If. And they are starting up with the new FX on Hulu, Why the Last Man, which I have not started yet, but I think I might watch at least the first episode tonight after we're done recording this.
Yeah. It looks really cool. It's apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And that's right up my alley, so I feel like I need to check it out.
Mm-hmm. And Panels to Pixels also covering What If as well. Cannot leave that out. Cannot forget them as well. And then speaking of Jason, over at Podcastica, of course, the flagship show over there at Podcastica, The Walking Dead cast, is up and running. Jason and Lucy are covering The Walking Dead, the final season, the series finale season. What's the best way to put that? Because we still got quite a few episodes to go, but it is the
I think this is the first. Yeah, the final first season part.
Yeah,
but we're in the final season.
They're breaking this final season into 3 different parts that are split up among a year and a half or whatever. So it's but they are in the final stretch. So if you're a Walking Dead fan, of course you should be listening to the Walking Dead cast. They are just awesome over there breaking down those episodes.
They have so much fun. I love listening to Lucy because she brings some of the things she says. I'm just like, yep, you're spot on. I can't believe I didn't think of it. And she's also really creative. There were some funny things that she added when they covered Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
That were just pretty special.
And then to wrap up on things, our good friend Damien, we heard from a little bit earlier. Well, you heard me reading what he typed. His podcast, Watched It in the 80s podcast. Of course, him and our friend Jerry covered Heathers. And then our good friend Ben over on Wilhelm has his new episode coming out, should be today, is favorite movie musicals. So trying to think, kind of I don't know what their picks are, whatever. I haven't listened to it because we record this before they released it, but while you hear it, it's out. So I don't know what their picks are going to be. I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and say Les Mis is definitely probably, and The Greatest Showman actually are probably both on top of Ben's list.
Yes.
But
Hamilton.
Yep, Hamilton's
maybe
great.
too.
I think me personally, if I was on there, I would have to go with Sweeney Todd and Rent. For sure. Those two, definitely.
Yeah, Rent is my favorite. I've seen it a bunch of times. A friend of mine, after it had been out for a little bit, the movie version had been out for a little bit, a friend of mine introduced me to the soundtrack. And I played it nonstop for a very long time because I loved it. The songs are very catchy.
It's great. I had a couple of friends in a local production of Rent a couple years ago, and it was awesome. They killed it. It was a great job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love when you get to go see the local productions and things. I actually saw a local production of Heathers the musical.
Ooh.
I've seen some interesting ones. That's not the only one. My friend Celeste runs a production company, and they've done Disaster the musical, Heathers the musical, Bubble Boy the musical, and a host of others.
Interesting.
And it's fun. It's really cool. They do such a good job. It's awesome.
Yeah. Fun. Theater. Live theater. It's coming back. Eventually.
It is.
Slowly. Occasionally. But we're getting there.
Yes. You've been to a couple of concerts, so
I have.
You're getting back
doing things
into the arenas and enjoying live music.
Mm-hmm. And finally, I guess on shout-outs, not really a shout-out because you're listening to Run for Your Lives right now, but Daphne, what is going on next week? Season 3, Episode 2, kind of, even though we don't title them that way when they come out on Spotify and Apple and stuff. But the next installment of Season 3, what are we doing?
So I think we've established that we do what we want over at Run for Your Lives. Creepy vampires descend upon a small Alaska town just as it heads into the darkest point of the year. With most residents hightailing it for lighter climates, can the sheriff, his deputy, and a ragtag group of survivors make it through 30 days of night? I guess we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we are covering, I believe it's 2008 film 30 Days of Night will be our next one. So a few vampires. Mm-hmm. I think we have a few vampire fans in our audience.
Yeah, so that will be fun for sure.
Yeah, we had some fun with that one. It was interesting. With that, we have come to the end of another fun episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run from agile, menacing, insect-like aliens who can glide, hop, and shoot spikes, and they only take a break on Sundays, you'd better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.